We often treat the mind like a calculator, something we turn on when we need to solve problems, make decisions, or remember facts. But it's so much more than that. The mind is the architect of our reality. It builds the framework through which we interpret everything. Two people can experience the same event and walk away with entirely different understandings. Not because the event was different, but because their minds filtered it through different beliefs, memories, and emotions. That filter is what defines our world. The stories we tell ourselves about who we are, what we're capable of, and how the world works. Those stories are not just reflections of the mind, they are creations of it. Our thoughts aren't passive. They're powerful. They shape the meaning we give to things, and meaning determines behavior. If you believe the world is full of opportunity, you'll approach life with curiosity. If you believe the world is out to get you, you'll approach it with caution and fear. The mind doesn't just report reality, it interprets, edits, and often distorts it to fit the narrative it's been trained to follow. And once that narrative becomes familiar, the mind protects it. Even if it's limiting, even if it holds you back. This is why two people with the same resources can live vastly different lives. One sees obstacles as challenges, the other sees them as threats. One believes failure is part of growth, the other believes failure is proof they're not enough. The mind builds these beliefs early and reinforces them with repetition. And because the mind loves certainty, it clings to those beliefs even when they no longer serve us. That's the danger of leaving the mind unexamined. It starts running the show, and we don't even realize it. But when we understand that the mind constructs our reality, we begin to take back authorship. We start to see that what we think isn't always the truth. It's just a version of the truth we've accepted. And that version can be challenged. It can be reshaped. Not easily and not overnight, but it can be done. Because the mind is adaptable. It responds to what we feed it. It learns from what we repeat. Just like a muscle, it grows stronger in the direction we use it. When we feed our minds with possibility, gratitude, and self-awareness, we begin to rewrite the architecture of our reality. We begin to see different options, different paths, different meanings in the same events. We become less reactive and more reflective, less trapped by old stories and more open to new ones. And over time, this new mental architecture builds a new internal environment, one that supports growth, resilience, and clarity. That environment doesn't just influence how we think, it shapes how we feel, how we act, and ultimately, who we become. When you become aware of your thoughts, something powerful happens. You begin to create space between stimulus and response. In that space is choice. Most people don't live with that space. They react the way they always have, thinking that's just who they are. But that's not identity, that's repetition. And awareness is the first crack in that illusion. It gives you the opportunity to ask, why did I think that? Where did that belief come from? Is this still true for me? Those questions are small, but they are revolutionary. They make you curious instead of automatic. They make you reflective instead of reactive. Awareness is the beginning of all change. Without it, we live on autopilot, driven by habits, unconscious beliefs, and emotional reactions we don't even question. We repeat the same thought patterns respond the same way to triggers, and make choices based not on intention but on conditioning. Awareness interrupts that cycle. It is the moment when you step outside your thoughts and observe them rather than be ruled by them. It is not judgment, and it is not analysis. It is presence. It is the simple but profound act of noticing what's happening inside your mind without immediately reacting to it. Awareness is not about control. It's about clarity. It doesn't stop the chaos of life, but it helps you navigate it with more wisdom. Instead of being tossed around by every thought and emotion, you begin to witness them. You realize that just because a thought enters your mind doesn't mean it deserves your attention. You see that emotions are data, not directions. They're messengers, not masters. And when you live with that kind of awareness, your entire relationship with your mind changes. You no longer fear your thoughts. You begin to engage with them. This practice of awareness doesn't require any special tools. It starts with simply noticing. When you're anxious, pause. Where is that anxiety coming from? When you're angry, pause. What story are you telling yourself that's fueling that anger? When you're about to quit, pause. Is this a reaction or is this a decision? Each time you pause and ask, you deepen your awareness. You train your mind to observe rather than spiral. Over time, this rewires your habits. It builds mental strength, and it gives you a foundation of inner steadiness, even when the external world is uncertain. We often chase clarity by trying to fix or change everything around us. But the real shift happens when we turn inward and become aware of what's driving us. The patterns, the triggers, the assumptions. Those are the places where transformation begins. Awareness doesn't promise comfort, but it does offer freedom. Because once you're aware, you're no longer trapped by what you don't understand. You can name it, face it, and then make a different choice. That is where all mental power begins, not in mastering the outside world, but in understanding your inner one. Real power isn't found in control over others. It's found in mastery over your own internal world. That's not the kind of power people usually chase. Most chase status, recognition, the ability to influence or command, but none of those things mean much if you're at war with your own mind. If you can't sit with your own thoughts, if your emotions hijack your decisions, if your self-worth crumbles under pressure, then no amount of external power will ever bring peace. Mastery of the internal world is subtle, it's invisible, but it's the foundation of every meaningful achievement and every lasting relationship. When you understand your triggers, you stop being ruled by them. When you recognize your patterns, you begin to break the cycles that once held you back. And when you learn to respond with intention instead of react with habit, you step into a version of yourself that leads from strength, not fear. This kind of mastery doesn't require perfection. It requires honesty. You have to be willing to look at your own blind spots, to admit what you don't know, and to sit with discomfort long enough to learn from it. That's not weakness. That's strength. The kind of strength that doesn't need to prove itself. We live in a noisy world. There are constant demands, endless distractions, and a pressure to be everything to everyone. In the midst of that chaos, the ability to stay grounded, clear, and connected to your values is a superpower. But it doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. You train for it. You practice it. You commit to building the inner structure that keeps you steady when the world tries to pull you in every direction. That structure is built on habits like reflection, self-inquiry, stillness, and discipline. They may not be glamorous, but they are the pillars of mental resilience. There's a misconception that mastering your internal world means shutting down emotion or silencing doubt, but it's actually the opposite. It means facing all of it, allowing it, learning from it, and then choosing how you want to act in response. Emotion isn't the enemy. Unexamined emotion is. Doubt isn't failure. It's feedback. The difference is whether you let these forces drive your decisions unconsciously or whether you hold them with awareness and lead anyway. That choice defines who you become. The most grounded people are not those without struggle. They're the ones who've learned how to navigate it. They know how to sit with fear without letting it dictate the outcome. They know how to question their thoughts without losing confidence. They know how to lead themselves first before they try to lead others. That's what internal mastery looks like. It's not loud, it's not performative, it's a quiet strength that comes from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and how to return to center no matter what chaos surrounds you.